What's good? What's good? Here to talk a little bit of this boxing on late night. Hyphy, salute to you. So we got Spence versus Ugas coming up this weekend, April 16th. Dallas, Texas, gonna be on Showtime pay-per-view. No secret. Everybody knows that. Hyphy, how's the audio, man? You hear me okay? If you're still in the chat. Am I too loud, too low? Hello, feedback, man. We know something. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and just cook. So we know the fight's coming up on the 16th. We got Isaac Cruz and Gamboa on the undercard. Jose Valenzuela and Francisco Vargas at lightweight on the undercard as well. Cody Crawley and Josecito Lopez. Stanionis versus Butayev. And Brandon Lee versus Zachary Ochoa. And I think the Stanionis Butayev, I think that's actually happening at a different, I thought it was happening at a different location. I know it's supposed to be its own broadcast. Hyphy said, well, Hyphy, hurry up and start the blood clot thing. We in here. It's just going to be me and you, Hyphy. Forget Spence versus Ugas. We got Brandon Lee on the undercard. Yes, we do. Looking forward to seeing Brandon Lee again. He's exciting. Looks like he might have a bright future ahead of him. Hyphy, as long as you don't let Lennar on the audio is great. Yeah. I don't know if Lennar is going to show up or not. I don't know how long I'm going to be on, man. It's kind of impromptu. Didn't really feel like laying down right now, so I decided to get on, talk a little bit of boxing. Didn't feel like uploading the video and doing any kind of editing and snipping and all that nonsense. So I just want to come on here and just talk a little live boxing. Talk a little live, do a little live stream about some boxing. Excuse me. So, as we know, Spence is the favorite. On the last odds I saw earlier today, several hours ago, had Spence a minus 500 favorite. So, that's you gotta put up. I think it means you gotta put up 500 to get 100. And then with Ugas, you could put 100, buck back 380 if he wins. For a net gain of $280. So, that's where that is. You know what I'm saying? But it's not crazy. I mean, and I guess there's a lot going into that, so it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? That they're not just ridiculous. I couldn't imagine what these odds would look like if Spence wasn't coming off an eye injury and a layoff. Hyphy said Brandon Lee is the most vicious fighters of the day. His punching power is wicked. Yeah, I think so, man. And I think the thing I like about Brandon Lee is that he sets his punches up well. He has some skill in there. I mean, not to say that any of these other guys aren't skilled, but he's one of them guys that you can fall in love with his power as a fan and forget, that he's actually a pretty skilled fighter. So, so I like to see the kid, I think he's gonna be, he's gonna be one to be reckoned with for a while. He's one of these guys that what's his name? Cameron Duncan. I think he's one of Cameron Duncan's fighters, like along with Boots and Brian Norman, a couple other guys. And Cameron Duncan loves the power punchers. He likes signing these guys that can crack. I definitely expect Brandon Lee to win this fight, but it's boxing, so you never know what's gonna happen. I definitely don't get them right all the time. I've been eating way more than my fair share of crow lately, so that's where that's at. But anyway, just to change the subject for a minute, last weekend We had Golovkin, make his return, his pitiful return after self-inflicted long layoff because he didn't want to. He and Murata basically ducking the rest of the division, the rest of the top guys in the division, so they opted to just lay off and wait until they can get an opportunity to fight one another, which I thought was pathetic. When there was a lot of, they're basically holding up the division in a sense. And then when they fought each other, you see why they did that in such a manner. It made for a good fight because of where those guys are. But I could see those guys getting washed by some of the other guys, the better guys in the division, so to speak. Hyphy says GGG's defense was never good and it's declined due to his reflexes reclining. Yeah, I can state that better myself. His feet have slowed down. Reflexes have definitely slowed down, and he's become even more of a plodding, come forward, I'm gonna get you eventually type fighter, and versus the right guys, he can still be very effective. I expected him to. I can't knock him for his performance versus Murata, but I can't critique the things that I saw that, tell me where he is. I personally had picked him to stop Murata in 9, so him getting him out of there in 7, he exceeded my expectations. So I got to give him credit for that. But at the same time, this is a guy that's, penciled in as an opponent if everything goes to schedule versus a guy who many consider to be one of the top pound for pound fighters in the world. And when your last performance is what we just saw in Triple G, and then your very next fight is supposed to be against such a guy as Canelo, it looks like a gross mismatch. But that said, from my vantage point, the 2 fights that they had were close fights. It's just that Triple G seems to have declined a whole lot since those fights. And a lot of it is during a time in which he's actually been very inactive. He's done next to nothing since and I know that sounds crazy when you talk about a guy winning a belt, because he actually now he's unified, but he did go win a belt, and then won that, what was it, IBF belt, and then he defended it. I don't know if he won the vacant belt versus Derevchenko or defended. I don't have it in front of me, but anyway, he won the IBF, and now he's won the WBA back. But even with that being said, you gotta look at who he was fighting. You know what I'm saying? He stayed away from guys that were kind of like a threat. So I can't get overexcited about him being Murata. I don't think that warrants a whole bunch of praise and acclaim. It's just it was a fight that he was heavily favored to go in and win, and he went out there and he took care of business. He did take some oncoming damage early on, and there were times in the fight where he looked like he was going to lose and could potentially lose by stoppage. So, if he and Canelo do fight next and he comes out that slow against Canelo and gets off to that kind of a start, it could be downhill from him. Canelo could be running downhill on him in the early goings. So who knows? All right. So Erickson Lubin, one of my favorites. My favorite fighter, 154 pounds. Went out there and gave a good account of himself, showed a lot of heart, showed a lot of grit, showed a very durable chin, in my opinion. And I know that's going to be kind of something that a lot of people don't disagree with, because the guy went down in the second round. But I think chinny is one of the most overused terms in the sport of boxing, because if this guy's chin is absolute crap, how does he stay upright from round 2 or the beginning of round 3 until the fight got waved off in between the 9th and 10th round? Never touching the canvas again. Yeah, he got rocked a couple more times, but if his chin was as bad as people act as if it is, he would have he should have succumbed to the big punches of Fundora way before his trainer waved off the fight. What's up? What's up, G? What's up, G Funky? So salute to you. Thank you for coming through. Um so to me, I just feel like, Lubin went out there, and let me state it for the record. I picked Lubin to win by stoppage. I think I had him like sixth, seventh round stoppage, and he went out there and I think he actually got a knockdown in the seventh, but that was like his last stanza. After that, what I'm saying, it kind of went downhill for him. Finished going downhill. The judges had him up. I don't know that I agreed that he should have been up, but I definitely felt like he was in the fight. But I wasn't really watching the fight with a scoring type eye, because I kind of just was, once Lubin got hurt and, he had so many bad moments in there, I'm kind of just watching to see, is the fight going to go to distance? Is he going to make it out of this round? Is he going to mount a comeback and stop Fundora? So I really wasn't scoring the fight. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I do that. Sometimes I get caught up in, especially a fight that's as exciting as that one was. Sometimes I get so caught up in the action that I just want to enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? Because score a fight is kind of like work. You know what I'm saying? So if I just want to enjoy the fight. I don't want to work. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes I just watch the fight as a spectator, which I am, and just enjoy what's going on. And at the same time, when those fights end, if I didn't actually score the fight and I'm just looking and saying who I think might have won, I never complain about the decision. You know what I'm saying? Because I know, just like the rest of us, that fights are scored round by round, and a guy can have a series of bad moments in a fight, but have done enough work early on to be up. But I definitely felt like I definitely felt the whole time watching the fight that, and even going in, that there's no way this fight was going to go 12. But I've been fooled before many times that, we looked at fight, looked at matchups and said, no, these guys aren't going the distance. Somebody's getting stopped. And in this particular fight, it played out that way. And, Fundora did everything in his power to assure that he did everything he had to do to make Lubin's corner throw in the towel. And that's where he left it. You know what I'm saying? And Lubin still was game. He wanted to go back out there. His family got upset. But I think at the end of the day, when they roll back the footage and really look at this stuff and see what's going on, and I'm sure when that medical report comes in, they probably gonna realize that Cunningham did the best thing he could do for Lubin in that particular moment, which was go ahead and tell the ref, he's seen enough. He gotta make sure his fighter's okay. Hyphy says, I picked Lubin to win by KO. Didn't know Fundora had that kind of fight in him. Very surprising and humble. And no, I don't think Fundora used steroids or loaded gloves. I'm staying away from that stuff, man. If it comes out to be the case, then that's just what it is. But I'm not fixing to, get on here talking about that all the time. I knew going into the fight. Well, I ain't gonna say I knew. I had been hearing going into the fight that there wasn't the random, drug testing, which I heard Fundora was asked, I think the boxing voice, Nestor Gibbs, shout out to him, asked him said something about the drug testing. And Fundora said, no, there wasn't drug testing for the fight. But I think that's kind of misleading. I'll put it that way, because if I'm not mistaken, I think there's drug testing for every fight. You know what I'm saying? Like I think there's always like a pre and post fight drug testing. As long as these major sanctioning bodies are involved, and athletic commissions are involved, there's some sort of drug testing. Now, there may not have been VADA random drug testing involved, and I think that's what he was saying. But we knew that going in, and if there was any benefit to be had, both fighters were given the same opportunity. Not saying that I think either fighter did anything, nor do I feel like they should have done anything outside of the confines of what is considered to be legal by the sport, by the sanctioning body, by the governing body of the fight, by the boxing commission that put the fight on. So, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a guy gets hit, I say Lubin, I think Lubin was hit around like 25, 26 times around, landed punches, a lot of shoulders to the face, you know what I'm saying? Different things like that. I mean, man, his face bears the brunt of if there was ever a time when you look at the numbers and you look at the guy and his face matches what the numbers say, that's Lubin in this fight. You know what I'm saying? I know sometimes guys go out there and they get peppered a lot by a guy who isn't really a big puncher, and it doesn't really, they may have a little bruise and this, that, and other, especially a darker skinned fighter. But in this case, he was getting hit with some heavy leather. You know what I'm saying? Oh, and it was accumulation every round after round after round. And let's be honest, it wasn't like it took to the end of the fight before Lubin started showing the started showing the wear from being hit, repeatedly by Fundora's shots. So of course, if the fight, goes on until the 9th, 10th round, and he consistently got hit the way he did, then it's gonna, he's gonna have some disfigurement of his face going on. But we'll see. I mean, I'm not holding my breath, waiting on some kind of investigation or something like that to come out of it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever comes out is what comes out. It's not really my lane. You know what I'm saying, to just put jackets on people and accusations on people just because, the fight went the way it went. And I'm here to tell you that Lubin is absolutely not one of, absolutely. Well, I'll say one of, because Laura still kind of campaigns at 154. But, Laura and Lubin are my favorite two fighters at 154 pounds. Laura's my favorite fighter in all of boxing. So, be that as it may, I'm not going to sit here because Lubin went out there and got pieced up, started making a bunch of excuses for him. You know what I'm saying? We all saw the fight. Lubin had his chances in there, and it just didn't work out in his favor. And such is boxing. Such is boxing. So, as far as another fight for the weekend that happened, we had Ryan Garcia versus Togo. I'm not going to talk about that a whole lot, but I'll just say that Ryan definitely showed that, he's in some type of adjustment phase. I guess one thing you say, he's coming back from a long layoff, coming back from dealing with whatever he was dealing with in his personal life. He's adjusting to working with a new trainer, you know what I'm saying, and things of that nature. So with all of that on the table, he went into this fight against a pretty much hand-picked opponent, and he won the fight, but it probably wasn't the showing that he thought he'd be able to give. Wasn't what a lot of fans expected, but the fight played out the way it played out, and Ryan admitted that he has things to work on before he can get in there with the top guys. So we'll see what's next for Ryan Garcia. If anything, I really ain't checking for him a whole lot just because I need to see some consistency from the guy. I need to see that Ryan is a dedicated fighter and more so interested in being a boxer as he is the other things he does outside of the ring. And kind of, I've said for years, I think Ryan Garcia kind of treats boxing like a side hustle. Like boxing is an introduction to the things he really wants to do. And I'm saying, boxing too dangerous of a sport for these guys to be competing in it and not really be serious about it. You know what I'm saying? It's called the hurt business for a reason. All right, Hyphy said Kevin was good, but the rest of Lubin's corner failed him, especially the cut, man, non-existent. Man, you know what? Hyphy, now that you say that, I can't remember. Now, I know they paying back and forth between the corners. They show replays and all kind of other stuff, but man, I can't remember a whole lot of work being done on Lubin in the corner. I kind of remember Lubin sitting on his stool and Cunningham giving him instructions, and he kind of just listening and Vaseline on his face. But I really don't recall anybody just really working his face with the inswell or anything like that. Just really working hard to try to, you know what I'm saying, to try to keep it together. You know, and maybe I missed it. You know, like I said, this was a very exciting fight. So when they're going to the corner, I'm trying to listen to the trainer more so than I am trying to look at the fighter. But also, I was kind of anxious for them to get back. You know, I'm counting down the seconds, waiting on the action to start back up. Because, you know, sometimes in exciting fights, the fight itself could kind of fall off a cliff after about 6-7 rounds. You know, it could be a really exciting fight, and then both guys kind of start to fade, and then it turns into a boxing match where they're kind of being more strategic and, you know, starting trying to set up shots and just trying to go the distance, not necessarily trying so hard to keep up the pace. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that's kind of what I was consumed with when they would go to the corner. But like I said, now that you mention it, I just don't remember. I don't remember a cut man over there really just working on Lubin's face and trying to keep his features together. And the way, you know what I'm saying, and the way he looked and the way he came out of that fight, it's kind of evident that, you know, somebody didn't do a good job. You know what I'm saying? We know who did do a good job, and that was Fundora. But somebody in Lubin's corner didn't do a good job of taking care of him in terms of keeping his face together. You know, and I know there's some things that, you know what I'm saying, they're not miracle workers over there. But I just don't remember, you know what I'm saying? I just don't remember a whole lot going on in terms of them, you know, really, you know what I'm saying, working on his face and doing the things that you're used to seeing when a guy gets beat up in that manner. Hy-Vee came back and said they had no inswell or similar tools at all. All they had was an ice pack. Yeah, and I remember seeing an ice pack, but I just don't remember. I don't remember anybody just doing any extensive work trying to get the swelling down and things like that. And we know from Mike Tyson in Tokyo, you know what I'm saying, that just having an ice, I ain't gonna necessarily. I think they had like a latex glove with ice. You know what I'm saying? But just having ice in the corner ain't gonna cut it when you get swelled up. You know, so you know, that played a part in a lot of it too. You know what I'm saying? But I think you know, you mentioned Cunningham, Kevin doing a good job with Lubin, and I'm assuming that you mean with his instructions and the things he was asking of him to do. And I felt the same way. You know, if you were on Marlowe's corner, that was one of the comments I left toward the end, was that I felt like Cunningham was giving him good instructions, but, you know, it's sometimes in the heat of the battle, you know, it's hard for these guys to execute, especially when you've already been hurt, especially when you're a little overwhelmed and you got to get in there and think through what's going on in that type of situation with an onslaught coming. You know, to me, I felt like from some, and like I said, I didn't hear everything that was said, but I did hear in spots, I heard good instructions that I felt like, man, if Lubin goes out here and do what he's been asked to do, this fight could be different. And then he'd go out there and he'd do next to none of what he was asked to do. You know, the only thing that I remember Lubin doing that was a clear, concise instructions from Cunningham, and that was the throw the overhand left. You know what I'm saying? When he told him that the overhand left's there all night, you gotta let it go. And he started doing so. But Lubin, you know, like I said, I mean, hindsight's 2020. You know, but looking back at this fight, man, and even in the moment when I was watching it, man, I was like, Lubin could make this fight easier. But it's just not really, you know what I'm saying? You gotta, sometimes there's a lack of cooperation from the opponent. But I felt like there were things Lubin could have done, you know, like take a step back here and there and kind of, you know what I'm saying, lead Fundora into something, you know what I'm saying, as they say, set traps for him. And I felt like if you go back and look at the first round, he actually was doing some really good work. And even though he's the shorter fighter with the shorter reach. He actually was kind of winning the jab battle, you know what I'm saying, or getting there first in exchanges from the outside. But then eventually it became an inside fight, and it kind of stayed that way through the whole fight, and that kind of played into Fundora's hands. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like the kind of fight Fundora would try to make happen, except for he didn't have to make it happen because Lubin was all for it. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of how it all played out. So, you know, with all right, so I'm gonna touch on this. Hold on, let me see before I shift gears. Hype, I'm gonna get to your comment. Who is a tougher opponent to prepare for besides Fundora, as far as finding sparring partners? Yeah, to me, you definitely, and I know, I heard the names of some of the sparring partners that Lubin had today, and I can't remember exactly. I want to say the guy that Terrell Goucher fought one fight ago. I forgot his name. I think he's oh man. I just drew a blank, but Goucher knocked him out the ring, I believe. But I think that guy was in sparring with Lubin. And I just can't remember. I heard some of the names today. But you know, of course, none of those guys have the features, you know what I'm saying, that Fundora has. So, you know, that's one of the things that, you know, that has to be hard when you got this guy coming in, is finding somebody to emulate what it is that he does in fights and try to prepare you for what you could potentially get into, but also to simulate what the you know what I'm saying, the physical demand and gruel of having such a big fighter leaning against you, you know what I'm saying, or having to push back such a big guy. You know, I understand that, you know, on the scale before they fight, you know what I'm saying, they both weigh in the same weight class. But, you know, we know rehydration is a thing. And also, even if they weighed the same thing on fight night, is the guy's dimensions have to be challenging in terms of trying to move him around, trying to hold him. Lubin had trouble tying him up when he needed to tie him up. You know what I'm saying? And I think his dimensions had a lot to do with that as well. You know, and he was a stubborn guy. You know, he didn't want to be tied up. He didn't you know, he didn't comply with the clinch. You know what I'm saying? He didn't cooperate, which I like. You know, I don't like guys who are just willing to allow themselves to be held. All right, so Hyphy, you want to come back to that? You know what I'm saying? Feel free. We'll talk about that a little more. But I'm gonna go ahead on and I want to talk a little bit about this Spence Ugas, since you know that is the big thing going on this week. I know, Hyphy, I know you're more excited about Brandon Lee, but I want to touch on these guys. You know what I'm saying? Touch on these guys' fight. For let me say that. Let me touch on their fight. You know, Errol Spence Jr., basically, you know, I'm reading this article, you know what I'm saying? Basically, he said he feels like he's on borrowed time right now, and he can't just sit around and fight a tune-up. You know, I take my hat off to Errol Spence Jr. for facing this type of opponent after coming off of that eye injury. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of one of those things that you just never really see, especially with a guy in a, you know, it wasn't all that long ago. You know what I'm saying? He's been out of the ring quite longer, but part of that is because he missed a fight. You know, he was scheduled, he was out of the ring and scheduled to have a fight, didn't miss that one, and now, you know, he's just now getting a chance to get back in the ring. But, you know, when he's talking about retina surgery, you know what I'm saying? It's you know what I'm saying, that's one of those things that you just never know. You know, I remember Abner Mares had his retina surgery, and you know what I'm saying, he still hadn't. He was supposed to be fighting Tank. We hadn't seen him in the ring since. All we see him do is commentate. So I'm assuming that he's, you know, pretty much retired, just never announced it. Hyphy said, all the talk is about how good Spence is looking. No one is paying attention to Ugas, and the Ugas coach is being overlooked. Hey, I think and I talked about that, Hyphy. I know you don't, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if you catch them. I don't see you in the comment section a lot of my videos, but maybe you do catch them. It's one of the things I talked about, man, is people really just acting as if Ugas is just some guy. Just some dude just showing up to get beat, coming in there as cannon fodder. And people under this, this impression or this perception that Ugas just doesn't belong there. Like Ugas is just some dude who got lucky to get a Pacquiao fight on short notice and was able to beat Pacquiao, and that's the only reason he's there. And I'm sure there are a lot of fans who think that the reason Ugas is champion is for that reason. They don't realize that Ugas went into the Pacquiao fight as the champion and defended his title like a champion. And he's coming into this fight as a champion who has defended his title a couple times at this stage. A lot of people forgetting how much trouble Ugas gave Sean Porter. I understand that officially he didn't win the fight, but I've stated multiple times that before Terrence Crawford stopped Sean Porter, I feel like Ugas beat Porter more convincingly than anybody. He just didn't get the nod. That's the way I saw the fight. But I wasn't one of the official judges, and I understand that other people didn't see it the way I saw it. But I felt like Ugas clearly won that fight, 8-4. And I felt like he should have been awarded a knockdown in the 11th or 12th round, whichever round it was. But, it didn't play out that way. But Ugas is preparing too. You know what I'm saying? That's just like, I just got done talking about things that Lubin could have done differently and things that his coach was telling him, but he was unable to go in there and make happen in the fight or unable, unwilling, whatever. And I said that a lot of that has to do with the other guy not going along with it. You know what I'm saying? The other guy having his own plan and going out there doing, executing his game plan, which was counteractive to what the other fighter's game plan was. And that's the thing, a lot of people, they're so high on certain fighters that they just think that, that any guy that's not some notable fighter that's supposedly, right there with them pound for pound doesn't have a chance. And that's not the truth. I hear some ridiculous things when it comes to, this fight and expectations. And I hear people exaggerating. They putting cables on stuff and, really going out of their way, actually discounting Yordenis Ugas. But it's crazy because I know these are the same people that are going to want to give Errol Spence a world of credit if he goes out there and beats Yordenis Ugas, especially if it's very impressive. Now, for me, I've stated it multiple times. I'll state it again. If Spence beats Ugas, I don't care how he beats him, he's getting a lot of credit from me because I think Yordenis Ugas really is a good fighter. And I think that this is a tough fight for Errol Spence Jr. to be going into under circumstances in which he's going into it. And I also feel like even without all of that, it wouldn't just be some, just some walk in the park. And I know a lot of people feel differently about that as well, and they're entitled to their opinions. At the end of the day, my opinion, your opinion, their opinion, his opinion, her opinion, its opinion won't matter once those guys get in the ring and that timekeeper tolls that bell. We're going to find out who is who and what is what when it comes down to Errol Spence Jr. and Yordenis Ugas. If you look, guys talking stoppage, this, that, and the other, maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. But I'll say this, it's more likely, in my opinion, with everything that's happened, it's more likely that Errol Spence Jr. gets stopped in this fight than it is that Yordenis Ugas gets stopped. And for the reason I say that is quite simply all of the stuff that Errol Spence Jr. is coming off of, and also looking at, you know what I'm saying, a moment he had in that Danny Garcia fight that I'll be honest with, kind of scared me a little bit as a spectator. I'm like, I hope this isn't a precursor of things to come, because I started seeing the Terrence Crawford Errol Spence Jr. fight go out the window for a brief moment. But luckily, it was toward the end of the round. Errol Spence Jr. came back out and, you know what I'm saying, reestablished himself as the man in the fight and, you know what I'm saying, pulled away. But there was a moment in that fight where Errol Spence Jr.'s, I guess his readiness, preparedness for that level of fight kind of betrayed him, or should I say lack thereof. And I say that because now he's actually saying that he probably shouldn't have been in that fight. But he went out there and won, and he dominated, and he looked very impressive. He just had a couple moments in there, but that's boxing. You know what I'm saying? That's boxing. But I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think anybody gets stopped in this fight. But I could be wrong. You know, one of these guys who go out there and get stopped in the first round. But I just feel like when you tell me that a guy who hasn't had a stoppage in a very long time, and then you talking about a guy who's never been stopped, that he's going to go out here and stop this guy who's never been stopped. The guy who we're saying is going to get the stoppage is also coming off of an eye injury, an eye surgery. He's also coming off a long layoff, and he's also only one fight removed from a very devastating car accident. And for me, it's hard for me to, if I had to bet, I couldn't bet on that. I couldn't bet on him stopping this man under those circumstances. And I know a lot of people looking at the knockouts on Ugas' record and saying this guy don't have any power. But I think all these guys have power. And I've seen Ugas, you know, almost decapitate a guy, you know what I'm saying, in Ray Robinson. And so, you know, it's just, I can't subscribe to that. I think this fight is going to be give and take, going to have ebb and flow. I feel like it's going to be moments in the fight where both of these guys are going to take a step back. Not sure who's going to be the first one to take a step back, but I think in spots, both of these guys are going to get the other guys' attention and make them back up, make them respect what they're doing, make them want to back away from the body attack that both guys like to do. You know what I'm saying? Both of these guys are good body punchers. And a lot of people talking about, the matchup of the body punching, and it's, Spence is favored to win that as well. And maybe he does. But Ugas doesn't just stand there and throw punches into the body. He throws punches to the body from angles. He gets outside and whips those punches in there. Errol Spence Jr. basically came out and said he doesn't really see anything tricky about Ugas. That was kind of alarming to me. But I guess maybe Errol Spence Jr. feels like he's seen it all, and Ugas is no nothing fancy, no special effects, whatever. But to me, I see a lot of crafty things Ugas does in fights that I think guys who get in the ring with him weren't prepared for before. It didn't look that way before they got in there with him. But Errol Spence Jr. is a different breed of fighter. You know what I'm saying? So maybe he just is that supremely confident in what he can do. And that he's not gonna give Ugas an inch in terms of admitting what he thinks he could present to him, present in terms of problems and trouble. But I don't agree with these people talking as if Spence is just gonna go out here and just dominate this guy. Hype said, "Are you talking about when Spence turned his back on Danny, or the moments when Spence was jumping away from Danny's body shots?" Yeah, mainly was talking about when he turned his back, because that was something I think that happened right at the end of a round. He clearly he was bothered by that shot. And yeah, I saw what you're talking about as well with the jumping away from Danny's body shots. And that's, you know what I'm saying, that's something to think about when you're talking about him and Ugas both being good body punchers. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, it is what it is. You know, a lot of things have happened. You know, Errol's got with this nutritionist. You know, he's had more time to kind of, you know, heal and recover from the accident. He's had more time with the things that had to be done to kind of make him whole again in terms of, you know, different procedures he had to have done after the accident and things like that. He's more time has lapsed since that stuff originally happened. So, you know what I'm saying? He seems more like the Errol of old than he did, you know what I'm saying, a fight ago, 2 fights ago, whatever. But we'll see. You know what I'm saying? I just don't subscribe to this Ugas being some slaps just holding a belt. You know what I'm saying? I can't see it that way. You know what I'm saying? I think this guy's is legit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but what I will say is he's a mixed bag. You know, he's not consistently, you know what I'm saying, his best. You know, I mean, I guess that's the best way to phrase that. You know, he comes out there and he fights like he did against Ramos, then, you know, it may be a long night for him or a short night. But, you know, there, you know, I think knowing who he's fighting and knowing the stage he's on and everything that's, you know, going against him, and he's hearing and seeing the same things we're hearing and seeing. So I think with all of that, you know, we're gonna get the best that he has to give. I'm just of the belief that the best he has to give won't be enough to win a decision over Spence, and I don't think he's gonna stop Spence. So it's hard for me to say that Dennis Ugas will win this fight. But I definitely think he's gonna let these people know that you know what I'm saying, he's gonna let us all know that he belongs in the ring with these guys. So, you know, that's where I feel on that. That's what I feel about that. So I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read a little bit of this article. You know, basically Spence said, you know, about he couldn't feel like he's on borrowed time. You know, he didn't want to, you know, fight a tune-up. Says, you know, Errol Spence Jr. saying he just couldn't bring himself to do it. The unbeaten IBF WBC welterweight champion would have been well within reason to face a less imposing opponent than Dennis Ugas in his first fight following surgery to repair a torn left retina. Spence knew, however, that he wouldn't have been motivated to take a mandated defense of one of his 147-pound championships or to face an optional opponent. That's why an ambitious Spence informed PBC founder Al Heyman that he wanted Ugas next once he was cleared medically to return. And although Spence has only boxed once since his 12-round split decision defeat of Sean Porter in September 2019 at the Staples Center. And handicappers have made him almost a 4-1 favorite against Ugas in their title unification fight April 16th, AT&T Stadium. It talks about, you know, he had to overcome facial laceration, dental damage in an accident that happened in October 2019. Also had a serious eye injury, had surgery in mid-August. And basically saying that Spence wants to maximize however many opportunities he has left in his boxing career. That's what he told Ray Flores. So, you know, for me, I agree. Maximize the opportunities put before you. You know, even us as fans is what we talk about a lot. You know what I'm saying? That boxing leaves a lot of things on the table. You know, being too greedy, being too cautious, whatever the case may be. Trying to build fights too long, trying to marinate, trying to get one more in before the big one, so forth and so on. So these fighters have to realize with their careers also that, you know, any fight could be your last fight. So when the opportunity presents itself, you got to seize the moment. Now, one thing I will say, and, you know, I'll throw this out there, that when you got these guys making certain amount of purses, certain amount of money, and they're not fighting very frequently, and they're going to camp, know they're only going to have 1, 2, maybe 3 at most fights a year. You can't blame these guys for wanting a big fight, knowing that, a bigger fight is going to bring a bigger purse, more attention, more eyes, especially if you're going on pay-per-view. You're going to get more pay-per-view buys, put yourself in a financially, it's more lucrative to do it that way. So, sometimes that's a motivator for some of these fighters, to really just get out there and try to mix it up with guys that are going to be perceived to be a dangerous fight, or a fight that fans are going to want to tune in for. One thing I will say, a salute, Belfanio. Sorry if I mispronounced that. And Joseph Brown, salute, fam. One thing I will say that I heard Spence say on the documentary, on that build up, I forget the name of it, not 24/7. It's anyway, the Spence versus Ugas build up show. One thing I heard him say that kind of bothered me. Spence was talking about the things he does, and he's talking about legacy and things like that. Salute, D-Ray. And he's talking about, but one thing I heard him say was, he was like, he wants to leave things, for his kids, and he wants them to be, wants to set them up to be, in good shape or whatever, which is admirable. Any father, mother, that should be their mentality. But I heard him say something that kind of troubled me. And maybe it's just a byproduct of what he's been through, that he just feels like at any moment, he could leave here. But he talked about leaving his parents in good shape. He talked about, he's trying to, he wants his parents to be okay. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of made me think that, in his mind, he's thinking about if the worst thing happens, he wants to know his parents are okay. But, ideally, I don't want my kids thinking about me if something happens to them. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want that to be their mindset that, something's going to happen to them before it does me. And to hear him talking about his parents, him setting his parents up, and basically, I'm not saying it the way he said it. What I'm saying? I probably should have wrote it down when he said it. But when he said it, I thought about it. I was gonna make a video about it, but I said, no, I don't want to talk about it, on a video, a standalone video, because it'll seem like, wishing ill will on the man. But I just didn't, I just didn't like him saying it the way he said it, and maybe it's just the way I think, but I just, I kind of, I understand, your kids, because you want your kids to outlive you. But you don't want to, I don't want to hear a fighter talking about, leaving his legacy that he's going to leave his parents. And like I said, that may not be exactly how he said it, but however he said it, it kind of, it stuck with me when he said it. I was like, I don't really want to hear him talking like that going into a fight, But I'm gonna leave that be. Beth Anniel said, agree, Ugas is being overlooked. I think so. I don't know that Spence. Initially I didn't think Spence was overlooking him at all. But now I'm starting to feel like, Spence is supremely confident. Let's just say he's supremely confident that he's gonna win this fight. And I think Ugas, the same thing. I think Ugas and his trainer are supremely confident that they're gonna win the fight. I think when it comes to the fans aren't overlooking Spence, but I think there are a lot of fans overlooking Ugas. The one thing about having two sides, two diametrically opposing sides who both feel the same way about the outcome of a fight, except for themselves, is that both of them can't be right. But I hope that both of them truly believe and feel the things that they're saying. Because if both of these guys really believe that they should win this fight, and they're going in here thinking and they're as confident as they talk, then I think we're in for a hell of a fight. There's Joseph Brown. Salute again, fam. D-Ray. I think those are your headphones. He's saying listening. Hyphy said, next time you do a live stream, I'll hop on and cook with you about this PBC scheduling team. Okay, yeah. Hey, no problem, man. Definitely can do that. I got a next time I do one, I'm gonna go ahead and have it scheduled. And I'm just glad to commit, you know what I'm saying? Commit and dedicate the time to make sure I come through when I schedule. I don't like scheduling and then something comes up and I can't do it. I feel like people start to, kind of look at it like, man, he ain't going live. You know what I'm saying? So they ain't even gonna be checking for it, so it's kind of how it is. But for me, I'll be honest, it's better for me to just do it kind of like as the opportunity presents itself and as I'm in the mood to do it. Because I ain't a lot of times I'm not in the mood to make videos, let alone talking about going live. Just you know what I'm saying, just where it is right now for me. But so back to the fight, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna go much longer. I gotta get up early in the morning and go hit this job. But back to the fight, I'll say I'm definitely looking forward to the fight. I've been excited about the fight ever since they got it announced. I was glad they were able to get past the standing on this situation. I felt like all along with that whole tournament situation, I felt like Ugas didn't belong in it anyway. I felt like Ugas, his stature should have warranted him an opportunity to bypass that. And those guys should have been Stanionis, Jamal James, who Ugas already beat, and Butayev, and some other guy, whoever they chose, should have been fighting each other for the opportunity to become the mandatory to challenge for the WBA. And Ugas should have never been tied up in that mess to start with. And it's almost like it was a ploy all along to get some payola, and by that I don't mean Stanionis. I mean the sanctioning body organization. I felt like that was the goal. And I think initially when they Ugas was trying his best to make him, keep him out of that, and they were like, nah, but Ugas didn't have enough juice to make that happen. So he needed Errol Spence Jr. to come forward saying he wanted it as well, and get Al Heyman, whoever else involved. I don't want to just speak on stuff and say this person did this and did that, but I will say I feel like the sanctioning body, I think the sanctioning body got compensated to allow this to happen. I don't think it was a matter of just standing on this, getting some kind of guarantees or promises or some kind of step aside. I think it was you're gonna have to show me the money if you want us to go ahead and let this go ahead as a unification. And I made videos talk about my disgust about that whole situation when it was going on, in the first place. That I felt like WBA had some kind of issue with on their stupid belt being in a unification bout. And I was to the point that I was like, okay, don't worry about it. Go find that IBO champion. All right, Joseph Brown, just days away then, but for the winner. Yeah, I hope that's what happens, man. I'm thinking that, all of this, I mean, I'm not 100% sure any of this stuff about Bud to the PBC is true. But I do think that if there is any truth to it, that it'll all be revealed after this fight. And I think it makes sense to play out that way because the fight's so close that if I was in a position of advising Bud Crawford or anybody else in that situation, I would say wait until this situation is resolved. If your goal is to get the winner, don't overcommit before this thing plays out, because you know what I'm saying, it's a lot of things that could go wrong. So if the goal is especially if the goal is to get a certain fighter, which is the goal has been to get Spence in the ring, I think the right thing to do is to wait on this thing to play out and see what happens. But who knows? Maybe maybe tomorrow they'll announce that Bud's fighting somebody. I don't know. Just watching. speculating, trying to piece it all together with what little bit I know, and hypothesizing what I think could be the case. But I'm definitely anxious to see what happens after this fight, especially if Spence wins, which is what I expect. I'm very anxious to see how much time do we have to wait before we really have a definitive answer on what the plan is going forward in terms of making the undisputed fight for Spence versus Crawford. Is there interim fights that are going to go on, or we're going to see what happens? Full of Sport said Bud spooked as F of Boots. Maybe he is, maybe not. I mean, they saying, hey, what's up? And salute you, fool. And people talk about all these guys being spooked to Boots. I mean, I'm not a boxer, but I'm on the outside looking in. I don't see anything for these top level guys. I don't see anything that they should be leery about facing. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. But I'm not gonna be the one in there taking the punches. So you know what I'm saying? But I see us extremely talented guy, but I think right now, if he fought those guys right now, they kind of would, to be honest, I feel like they kind of would be taking advantage of the situation. I think it would be advantageous to the top guys at 147 to fight Boots right now versus waiting 3 or 4 more fights to fight him. And if you look at how Boots is being moved and you listen to what Cameron Duncan, his handler, is saying, that's kind of his position as well. He says that he thinks Boots can beat these guys right now, but if you listen to him keep talking, he'll tell you that he's not ready to put Boots in the ring with these guys. And he talks about moving Boots along a certain path, and he actually talks about he and Espinoza at Showtime basically talk about a plan that they have for Boots. And that plan doesn't include fighting Terrence Crawford right now. It doesn't include fighting Sean Porter right. Well, not Sean Porter anymore. He's gone, but Errol Spence Jr. or Dennis Ugas or Keith Thurman. Those are names that Boots throws out there, and he should, because the only way he's gonna really catch on is to latch on and have his name mentioned with these type guys. And he deserves to be mentioned with these type guys because he's next up. And I say the same thing about Virgil Ortiz. Those guys got next, as long as they can stay in the division. He's a big welterweight, but just a different animal. We'll see how he looks versus Clayton. Yeah, I agree. The bad thing about it with Clayton, and I hate to be dismissive of the guy, but Clayton's inconsistent. You know what I'm saying? Like, the problem, with the Clayton fight is that Boots already beat a guy that Clayton drew with. I felt like Clayton did enough to win the fight versus Lipinets, but he didn't. It was a draw. And Boots already beat Lipinets. So I guess if you're measuring things, if you say that Lipinets and Clayton are on the same level because they had a draw, then where's the progression? You know what I'm saying? Where's the progression to go from, this class to that class to that class to challenge for a title? I said multiple times that I see Boots fighting the same level of opposition over and over and over. And then he fought Lipinets, who I felt like was a step in the right direction. And then he fought Thomas Delorme, who I thought was a step back, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? I felt like it was a good measuring stick just for the fact that Stanionis, who is considered to be in contention for a title shot, had fought Delorme and had a pretty tough fight with him, in my opinion. So I guess in that regard, it made sense for Boots to fight Delorme. But if you ask me if fighting Lipinets is a tougher or should be perceived as a tougher challenge than fighting Delorme, I would say it is. And then you go down to Delorme, in my opinion, and now you're going back up to Clayton, who I feel like is on the level with Lipinets. But then if you look at Clayton in his last fight where he fought a guy that had like, and I don't know, I'm gonna look it up because I got the time and I got the resources to do it. I'm gonna actually look up this guy's record and who he was. Um, and I'm gonna speak on that for just a minute. So Clayton in his last fight, Custio Clayton, last time out, he fought this guy named Cameron Creel, and I'm gonna tell y'all what this was on the Donaire Gambala undercard. Okay? Gambala undercard. Cameron Creel's record going into the fight with going into the fight with Clayton was 18-19. And then he had 3 draws, he had 5 knockouts. Prior to that fight, he had lost by unanimous decision, got KO'd, lost by another unanimous decision, lost in the decision, unanimous decision to Montana Love, and then went into the fight with Cameron Creel. I mean with Custio Clayton. And it was not a cakewalk for Clayton by any stretch of the imagination. You know, it definitely wasn't a cakewalk. And the fight was actually contested above the welterweight limit. So when you look at those things, I just don't know how tough a fight Clayton is gonna be for Boots, but I gotta give Boots his credit for that too. You know, because if it isn't a tough fight, then that means Boots had something to say about it. You know, he made it, you know, not be a tough fight. You know, but you know, Clayton fought Lipinets in October of 2020. Then he fought Creel in December of 2021. So he hadn't been very active over the last, you know, couple of years. Some of that has to do with the pandemic and all, so I understand that. But I'll be honest, I like Clayton as an opponent for Boots. I think it's a step in the right direction. He's back on the right track. But I'm eager to see if Boots goes out here and beats him, what's next, you know, because I've listened to his handler, Cameron Duncan, talk about the way he's moving him and his plans for him. And I'm telling you, Cameron Duncan's plans for him aren't the same as what fans' plans are for him. And Cameron Duncan is in control of his career. That's why Boots isn't with the PBC, because Cameron Duncan isn't going to, you know, he isn't in a position where he's going to allow people to just come in and take control of his fighter. You know, so they have their situation with Showtime, and we'll see. You know, we'll see how he's moved going forward. You know, he looks like he's on his way to, you know, getting the IBF mandatory shot, but you know, we just never know. We never know how this stuff is gonna shake out. You know, these guys can come back. He could go out and beat Clayton and then be told he got to fight somebody else for a final eliminator. Who knows? What did that say? But yeah, I just close in saying, you know, Spence Ugas, I expect it to be a great fight. I'm not of the belief that Spence is just head and shoulders over Ugas. Do I think it's impossible for Spence to go out there and show me that he is? Absolutely not. You know, I would be surprised though, because I just looking at both guys' body of work and looking at everything going into the fight, when I look at activity matters. You know, Spence says, we've heard Spence say multiple times, iron sharpens iron. Well, you know, there's such thing as ring rust. You know what I'm saying? Iron has a tendency to rust. And you know what I'm saying, one of the easiest ways for rust to set on anything is for it to be left alone. So I think Ugas being as active as he is, you know what I'm saying, being a very active fighter, and I'll look at that right now. Um, Ugas, since his fight with, I'll go back to March of 2019. That's when he fought Sean Porter. Since that time, Ugas fought. He fought. He came back in July of 2019. He came back in February 2020. He came back in September of 2020. He came back in August of 21. And now here it is, April of 22, he's about to fight. So we're talking about, I'll say since 20, I'll just use 2019 as the, that's the start. So since 2019, Ugas has had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's had 5 fights, all of which, with the exception of the Sean Porter fight, were wins. And even that's arguable. That's debatable. Okay. So then you look at Ugas since 2019. He's had 3 fights. And of those 3 fights, one of them happened 15 months after the preceding fight. And then now here we are again looking at another 14, 15 months since his last fight. So all of that stuff plays a part in, my expectation when it comes to the fight. I think there could be a prolonged filling out process in the fight for both guys. I think for Ugas, it would be primarily so because of him knowing who his opponent is and trying to, kind of like gauge how much of this stuff is really real versus how much of this stuff is more hype or built up pre getting to a certain level. And then at the same time, you got Spence, who's going to be testing himself and things that he's been through and trying to make sure that, I feel like regardless of what they're saying about camp and all of that, I feel like when you get into a real live fight, that knowing what you're coming off of and things like that, he's going to have to be a little bit cautious. How is it going to feel, to get hit, on that side of his face, knowing that, he had eye surgery not long ago. And regardless of him saying that he feel like that eye is stronger than the other eye now, and maybe it is just doing regular activities. And maybe it is with headgear on. Maybe it is, when you're not in the heat of a real, fight versus somebody who isn't coming in there to get you prepared for a fight. He is the fight. We'll see. Last thing I want to say on it, when it comes to these 2 guys and, what they bring to the table, I feel like, I just feel like these 2 guys, they're already winners. They're already winners. They know how to win. They know what it's like to lose. Both guys, they know what it's like to come back after losing. And I'll say that because, Errol Spence Jr. doesn't have a loss on his professional record, but, he know what it's like to lose and be disappointed as an amateur. And he also knows what it's like to come close to losing it all. And to have your dream temporarily snatched away from you. So when you look at all that, man, these guys have done it against all odds. And I feel like, these guys are going to come out here and give it their all. There's not going to be any of that, buddy stuff in the ring, guy coming out being a little too nice and too friendly and all that. You're going to have 2 guys going in there looking at the other guy across the ring from him like he's in the way of his next meal. And you got to get out of the way or I'm going to starve. So, I expect these guys to come in there and give it everything they got. And I expect these guys to walk it like they talk it. You know what I'm saying? I think everything, you know what I'm saying, everything that they're saying, I expect them to get in the ring and try their best to show us that they're superior to the other guy. And I think when you got two fighters squaring off with that type of mentality and having that type of confidence and self-belief and feeling like I'm already a champion, you know what I'm saying? I'm royalty in my own right, and it's just time for me to take all the crowns. You know what I'm saying? And this is one step closer to that. And I think that's the mentality that both of these guys have. And I think that the fact that that's the way they feel, we're in for a treat as fans. I think we're going to have a very enjoyable night of boxing, especially when it gets to the main event. I think it's going to be one of those situations where, folks are going to watch this fight and can't wait to run it back and watch it one more time, watch it right back. I feel like it could be that type of fight, even if it doesn't go 12. I just feel like, I feel like Lubin and Fundora gave us a hell of a fight, but I wouldn't be surprised if this fight somehow is exciting enough to make people scratch their head and say, I don't know. I don't know that Ugas Spence fight was something else. But we'll see. But I ain't gonna hold y'all any longer. I just want to, like I said, I just want to get on here and chop it up just a little bit. Been a while since I've done a live. I appreciate everybody for coming through. Hyphy came through here from the start, hung in here with me. I appreciate you. Bethaniel, I appreciate you coming through. Joseph Brown, I appreciate you coming through. D-Ray, appreciate you coming through. Full of Sports, I appreciate you coming through. G-Funky, I appreciate you coming through. All right, man. Hey, y'all, come through, mess with me next time. Do another one. Hopefully it won't be too long. I appreciate y'all coming through, dialoguing with me, engaging with me. Go ahead and lay it on down. Peace.